From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and today I have the pleasure of having Evelyn Glikas with us. She is the Director of Adult Education at the Clovis Community College. Thank you for joining us, Emily.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
For sure. I kind of read back into the history on this, and the community college originally started out as part of Eastern. And then the school started, I think, 1960, if I'm right, and then merged over in the early 90s and separated out as a community college, which provides a lot of different things. But tell us a little bit about you as far as your background, family, those sorts of things, and tell us about you.
So I'm originally from Amarillo, Texas, born and raised over there. I graduated from Tascosa High School and then briefly went to New York University.
Wow.
And then my parents had a kid my freshman year of college. So I saw my baby sister on spring break and had to go back to school and decided that wasn't going to cut it. So I moved back to the area to be closer to her.
How nice is that?
Oh, it was wonderful. I ended up graduating from West Texas A&M. That's where I met my husband. He's a Clovis local. So.
And you're an Aggie.
Yep. Aggie family.
Very nice. That runs deep, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I have half of us are WT, half of us are A&M Galveston.
Okay. Okay.
But we're all kind of the Aggie umbrella.
Very nice. So you met your husband?
Yeah, I met my husband at WT, and he's from Clovis. So we moved back over here when I enrolled in grad school here at Eastern. And I came back to do the alternative licensure program for education. My goal was to be a AP teacher at one of the high schools, was kind of my plan. I applied to be a tutor over at Clovis Community College, and a woman named Mona Lee Norman Armstrong called me and said, "Hey, how would you feel about teaching a GED class?" And so that's how I got into this. And the first GED class I taught, I loved it. I loved having students who wanted to learn. They were coming back to school. They knew how important that education was, and they were happy to be there, happy to learn, very respectful of the space. Very different from some of the student teaching experiences I had had in the high school. And so I ended up staying with the GED program, picked up another class, taught a pretty full part-time schedule for about a semester and a half, and then I ended up taking a full-time position there as the instructional coordinator in the adult ed program. And then just worked my way up over the last 9 years.
And what year was that?
That was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been there about 8 years, I guess. Would that be right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So the alternative, what did you say? The alternative licensure? Is that what you said?
Yes, the alternative licensure.
I'm not familiar with that. Can you explain what that is?
So it's a program here at Eastern, and now Clovis has one as well, where individuals who have a bachelor's degree in some field can return to do kind of an accelerated curriculum for getting that teacher licensure.
Okay.
And so that was kind of the long-term goal. I got my master's in education and was going to do the alternative licensure. I ended up only getting the master's and not doing the licensure and going into the public schools.
To teach at the community college, are you required to have a master's, or can you do that with a bachelor's?
So to teach the credit classes, you have to have a master's.
Okay.
For our adult education classes, we can take anyone with an associate's. We do offer classes in Spanish, and so for those classes, usually we're really valuing those language skills over credentials. A lot of our teachers are grad students here at Eastern who are working on finishing up their own master's degree. And so there are opportunities for people who don't have masters to work in instructional settings. It's only on the credit side that you have to have a master's.
It's probably been about 15 years ago, and I wanted to take a class in Spanish. And I chose the community college. It was just the scheduling fit better, and the pricing was less per hour. So I didn't realize there was such a difference on that of a 4-year program versus a community college. So it was a wake-up call to me to go, that's definitely where I need to do this at. And it was just, I audited the class, but it was just a matter I wanted to learn, and it wasn't for a degree or anything else, but it was a nice opportunity, and enjoyed the school. And it's grown. I mean, the facilities there are pretty amazing. What do you have there on campus as far as their buildings and things like that?
So we have our main campus building that houses all of our general education, our education students, our business students, our adult education program. Then we have our HPE facilities that include a weight room, workout room, a pool, racquetball courts, a gym. All of those things are free to students, and we also have a lot of community members who enroll in our HPE classes to access those resources. We have our allied health building and our library, which are the big fancy new buildings on the east side of campus. We're currently working on an expansion to our allied health building to increase our simulation lab for our nursing students so that they can really get a sense of that clinical setting while they're still on campus before they go out and do those clinicals in the community. We also have our Classroom South building, which is our cosmetology center. We have a full service salon that does offer student services at a reduced rate to community members. So we have a lot of traction there for getting blowouts, perms, dyes, cuts. We're working on a barbering program. Right now we have a crossover, so we can also provide those services. And then we have our welding lab that just got expanded to bring in more welding students because we're seeing a huge need in the area for more of those technical trade skills.
Right.
And so that is kind of our focus in the upcoming decade or so, is looking at those trades and where can we make sure we have the facilities and the programs to support the need for those occupations.
You know, they took those out of high school so much. And I know at one point our high school here, literally they took a van up and people that wanted to go into this hairstyling or the welding, and they literally would take the students up, they would go to the classes and then come back to high school. But they would get out of high school and be ready to have a job that paid well and get started. And not everybody is a college-bound student, or it's more of a technical skill. And truly, they probably make more money than a lot of us do with more education.
Per hour,
Right.
for sure.
Right, right. So, and it's just a better fit. So I love that's up there. You guys have pickleball courts too, right?
We do. Pickleball has been huge. I think the class load for that has doubled every semester for the last few years because it's been in such demand.
I know I have friends that they go to your campus, and that's where they play after work and different things like that. And because of it being, it's inside, right? And so, you know, we have great ones here, but they're outside. So that makes it more year round. And I've always heard great things about your gym. And do you have a swimming pool as well?
Yes, we do have a pool.
Okay. So a lot of different features. And I think I'd read like the campus size of originally that donation of the land of Miss Shep's, and then like it's up to like 100 acres of purchase of land around there. So still lots of room for growth. And one of your faculty, or I don't know faculty, but one of your employees actually did a lot of video of your campus as well. So what you'll see on this program, you know, demonstrate some of that of what that campus looks like. So that's really cool. Well, let's dig in and shout out to Robbie Fight, who is her husband is the athletic director here, but she's the one that connected me with you, and she works as a tutor in the programs, right? So appreciate that connection. But tell us about this. So the Total Literacy Clovis program. Can you just tell me about it in general?
Yeah. So Total Literacy Clovis is a new program. We applied for a literacy grant in 2023. And so 2024 was our first fiscal year working with the grant. We did a lot of groundwork, getting curriculum in place, you know, working with partners to identify spots that we could meet students, working with partners to identify areas to recruit students. We selected some instructional software and purchased some materials. And then last fall, we were able to hire our first tutor, Robbie Fight.
Oh, I didn't realize she was the very first.
She was the very first, and she was a very good choice for that first tutor. When she was in her interview, she was asking a little bit about the job, and I remember telling her, we're very new. It's definitely a position where you're going to be building the position as we go, or building the plane
like
as we fly
the foundation.
it. Yes. And so everything we're doing with literacy right now is really building our foundation because it is a new program. The grant is a 5-year grant, so we do have secured funding for the foreseeable future, and we're planning on applying as we move forward. Right now, our main goal is making sure the community knows and recruiting students so that we can start connecting students to those literacy services. And by literacy services, we mean any skill required to access information in our modern world. And so that includes not just reading, but basic arithmetic, understanding that foundational math that allows you access to taxes and income and grocery shopping and planning your budgets and doing things like that. We also include digital literacy. Using computers is a skill that you can't access the world without it. And so those literacy gaps that we see oftentimes in our older population, we do have a few younger students, but often it's the older population who's been out of school for a while and may have lost some of the skills that they did have, and they just don't know where to go for help. Maybe they're re-entering the workforce or coming back and they're stepping into a room that looks completely different. And so that is what literacy is here for, is to find those adults in our community who are looking at a skill gap between where they are and where they need to be for their dream job, for their kids, or whatever it is that they're looking to do in their life.
Well, and a lot of the times after people go through a career and may retire and they want something a little more lightweight, sales clerks, your cash registers, they're digital. And then all the way back down to your McDonald's. I mean, everything, those registers and everything in work is literally computer-based anymore. So if you don't have those skills.
We get individuals coming from, they've just accepted a job at Walmart and they need computer skills to complete the training to onboard. And so that, when that started happening, we were like, oh, we have to do something. Right. There's a huge gap here.
Well, and the same thing here, a lot of our training on campus for some of the employees, it isn't required to have a bachelor's or anything beyond a high school degree, but a lot of the training, different harassment and different programs that you have to do, you have to be computer literate. So that provides a great avenue because I have the great opportunity that I lean on the students here and I learn from them and hopefully they learn something from me. But it's like, hey, show me how to do this and they can figure it out so quickly compared to it will take me much longer. So I take advantage of what they know. And I'm fortunate to have that around me because it keeps me on task with things as well. That's interesting. So where did this inspiration come to start this program? Was this your brainchild or how did this come up?
So we had a literacy council in Curry County back in the 90s. I'm not sure if it was disbanded in the 90s or early 2000s. It was before my time, but it was volunteer driven. It was very high demand, but they always struggled with having volunteers who were reliable, consistent, and committed to working in those instructional settings because it was volunteer. They're doing this in their spare time on top of their other things.
You couldn't rely on them to be there on certain times when you need them.
Right. And so when we saw that the state was introducing the option of literacy funding that we could apply for, that really appealed to us because that would give us an avenue for having paid tutors. With paid tutors, we can require training, we can require schedules. We have a little more leverage to make sure that we have the consistent and reliable programming that students really depend on to learn.
Versus just you show up and then no one's there to help you.
Yeah. And we've had some great volunteers in our program, but it is always a different management structure trying to kind of herd cats whenever it's all volunteer versus if you have that leverage of a paycheck, it helps that stability.
And it may be feast or famine. Sometimes you need a lot of volunteers, you have a lot of students, and then it shrinks back and you don't have as much too.
Oh, yeah.
And so you probably train, like your staff comes in, different ways of doing math that have evolved over the years and things. You can have a certain process so that they learn in a way that they're going to be taught that going forward as well, to teach those students in the right manner.
We focus on instructional training across the board. And so we really focus on how can we integrate subjects instead of, okay, this is math, this is science, this is social studies, this is reading. Most of life's problems, we need to know how to read it. We need to understand the social study, the historical context, and we need a little bit of math to solve the problem. And so we do a lot of training with our new instructors and tutors on really approaching students as whole people and tying the academic subjects together. That way we're not throwing them into these different silos of learning that we've become really accustomed to in our school system. And we're really thinking about it as an adult, because, we're telling the kids all the time when they're in math, when am I going to need this? When am I going to use this? When am I going to have to know this for my life? When it comes to adults, you have that benefit of they're using it right now. They're seeing it right now, or they're struggling with it right now. And so they see the value in how these literacy skills and math skills and computer skills all tie together for that job application that they're trying to complete.
Wow. Okay. And I hadn't really thought about that. When I first talked to you, I was thinking literacy is truly reading.
Right.
And this encompasses so much more than just the reading.
Right.
So learning history as you're reading, or things like that, or everyday topics or conversations can pull into that.
Yeah. Well, and then you get the students on a hook because you find what they're interested in. And that's where Robbie has been such a powerhouse as a tutor, is that she can connect with an individual and really draw out what their interests are and how we can connect that interest to whatever skill they're trying to learn on the academic side. So we have a student right now who, when she started, told Robbie that, I don't read. We don't really read. I don't have that many books. It's too hard to be fun. And just last week, she had a chapter book that she brought in. She was showing everyone in the center, this is my book. And she had found one that was on a topic she liked. It had a character that reminded her of herself, and she was just thrilled to read it. And so making that connection where it's not just about building a skill for a job resume, but also developing a love of learning, because that opens the doors.
Your
for everything.
vocabulary, your spelling, just by reading, you pick up so much. And if you're not structured, like you have to have this as your reading text, or my son, he struggled a little bit early on. He was so busy keeping him in his seat. And what pulled him in is Hank the Cowdog books.
Oh, yeah.
Because it related to him and it had the humor. And then he thought that was really fun. And, from that point on, it wasn't that he had a learning disability. It was just truly, he didn't have the interest or the attention span. He was just a busy little boy. So, but that's really cool. So you can connect with them where they're at and what they enjoy. That's really neat. What does this program play in addressing literacy challenges in the community?
So we are looking to address some gaps that we've found. As the Director of Adult Education, we've had our adult education program for a while that provides English as a second language classes for community members. It also provides high school equivalency preparation for a GED exam or a HiSET exam. And so those services have been available to adults in our community for decades now. Where we've seen the gap is all of our classes for preparing for the GED example, for example, those classes begin at the assumption of a student being at a 3rd to 5th grade level in math and reading. And if you're below that level, it's very hard to sit in a class where it feels like everyone knows something but you.
Right.
And what we would see is if we had students come in and test at those foundational levels where they really needed that one-on-one literacy instruction to build up those skills first, they would get frustrated. They would be in the class for a few days or a week. They would, tell their advisor and a few people that they were overwhelmed, they didn't understand anything, and then we wouldn't see them anymore.
Well, if you feel that you're not up to speed and it's just a beat down.
Right.
You become embarrassed, and it's like, I don't know this, and I'm embarrassed to even ask.
Yeah.
So
that's the gap that we really need to fill, is finding ways to provide those foundational skills to people in a way that treats adults as adults, helps anyone work through that embarrassment or that shame, and honors the knowledge and the experience that adults are bringing in when they do come back for foundational academic skills.
Very interesting. Well, and specific literacy service that you do offer, I know you just talked about it, it's kind of all tied in, but is there specific ones that you do offer through the program?
So we offer one-on-one tutoring with students. We accept referrals by phone, by email, or we have some referral forms out in the community. When we get a referral, the first thing we do is kind of assess a student's skills to kind of see exactly what they're needing, where their gaps are. We do a goal sheet to see what are your goals, what they're looking for, what they want to do. And we use that to match them to an individualized plan for learning. Components of that plan include meeting with a one-on-one tutor. We have self-paced softwares that they can study on their mobile device, or they can come into our computer lab and study on the computers there. And then we also have a wide library of instructional materials that they can check out, books, workbooks, worksheets, things like that.
All right. And so the target audience for your program, it probably spans everyone?
Just about. So we can serve anyone who is 18 or older, and we can serve up until they want to come. The only requirement for eligibility is demonstrated need. And so that's where that assessment piece comes in. Sometimes we have students who come to us, they say, I'm not good at this. We give them a test and they're actually really good at it. They just thought they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And so those students usually will reroute to other resources if they are needing academic skills above that foundational literacy level. But that's where that assessment piece kind of plays with determining eligibility.
Okay. And, you know, some other things, the funding, how did that come? You said you have grants, but was this you that worked on the grants, or a grant writer or somebody that helped with that?
Yeah, so in our sponsored programs department on campus, it's myself and then a coordinator, Julia Alexander, and we worked together on that application to the state. They released a request for applications that had very specific requests for information to get them, and so we compiled some of our local data on our population, the educational needs, the educational trends in the area, and then we submitted that.
Okay. And challenges for the program?
There are several challenges with being new, and a lot of it is just building out the program and finding the students we need to serve, making sure partners are aware of us and community members know to refer people back to us, and then also building our team. You kind of mentioned earlier the feast or famine of you might have a big group of students or a little group of students, and with tutors, even though they're part-time, most people want a consistent schedule or a consistent salary.
Sure.
And so we're in this
You grow it, but you can't grow it too fast.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have the workers.
Right. And so we're kind of very carefully trying to grow a little bit so we have enough time to find more students and then find more tutors, find more students, find more tutors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just trying to keep that balance where it works and not an overload and things like that. And the barriers and the lack of transportation, are there things that help with that?
So we do have resources at CCC to help with some of those basic needs issues that students might have. But we also designed the program to help eliminate as many of those issues as we can. Our tutors can travel to meet with students in public places. And so if a student lives in downtown Clovis, where they're close to the Clovis Carver Library and not really close to Clovis Community College campus, our tutor could meet them at the library.
How nice is that?
Yeah, and it alleviates some of those barriers because a public space might be a space where they could bring their kid, let their kid go to the kids section while they work with their tutor. We try to find a few locations that are within walking distance of a few neighborhoods in Clovis. That way we have a plan for if we have a student that needs these services and can't get to this place, where can we meet them? How can we meet them where they're at?
Well, and income, that way, you know, truly if they can bring a child or someone they're caring for, an elderly parent or whatever, they're still able to get the information without that financial burden on top of them if you're meeting them where they need to be. That's a really nice feature. Wow. And then also the partnerships of the community, how do they help to strengthen the program? Is it through funding or the volunteering or?
Right now, support has been a big thing. Our partnership with Clovis Community College is crucial because if we were applying as an independent grant, we would have to find a place to be. We'd have to pay rent, pay a light bill, pay for an IT guy to get us all set up. And the college provides all of those things for free to this grant program. That partnership is invaluable to the program.
Right.
The other benefit of being tied to a community college is that we can start having students think a little more long-term when they start and maybe consider, I could do a welding program. I could do the cosmetology program. I never thought about it before, but maybe I can go after some post-secondary education to improve my career outlooks. Other really key partners in the area include our workforce. That's where a lot of people go when they need help, when they're in that crisis of needing a new job and not having the skills to shift or get a new thing. We also work with our library to make sure that we have some spaces identified over there. We work with United Way to make sure we can connect students to resources as needed. And then we work with our area workforce board who helps give us information on local trends. They also provide a lot of supports to students who are looking for those career advancing skills.
So truly a huge partnership with a lot of different groups. Man, our time, there was so much we didn't cover, and I still have a lot of questions, but the important part, how can people get in touch with you or find out more about this program?
So the best way to get in touch is to give us a call. It's 575-769-4095. Anyone who answers will be able to get your information and make sure we get you to the right program. You can also reach out by email at css@clovis.edu, or you can visit our website and find more information there.
Okay. All right. What an exciting thing. And I'm sure you take people from, it doesn't just have to be from Clovis, from anywhere in the state, or is it open to others?
So we can serve anyone who can make it to our program. I have to stay in New Mexico. I can't cross the state line. Our large target area is Clovis and Portales. Right now we're looking for a tutor in Portales. So if you know anyone who lives over here, send them our way.
Okay. Oh, Emily, great information. I really appreciate you coming in. And again, a big thanks to Robbie for making this connection for us. And we're so happy to provide this. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. And then also, I'd just like to give a shout out to all of our students that are here and work on this program. And this is how they learn here at Eastern. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Cheers.